Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, May 31st, 2024, and this is episode 909 of Living Free in Tennessee. And I have the distinct pleasure of being 10 inches taller than Tactical on this live stream because he is slouching.
Okay.
But just be assured that he is taller than I am. Anyway, today's a Homestead Happenings show, and if you pop in on this and want to like and share it, all those things, that really helps us out. We had kind of a crazy morning, which we'll talk about, which is why I'm not entirely sure what we're going to talk about, but I think we are going to talk about the workshop building that's come up, what we're up to with the rabbits, getting ready for the poultry processing workshop, and a bunch of other stuff on the homestead. Before we do that, though, I want to talk about our featured event of today's show, and it is the poultry processing workshop that we're doing here at Living Free in Tennessee on June 8th. Head over to livingfreeintennessee.com if you want to find out more about that, but it's a really fun class. Starts at about 8:30 in the morning. We usually wrap up by 2, and you go home with your chicken as well as, a copy of my guide, Don't Be a Chicken, a guide to fowl processing, which has all sorts of different pictures and illustrations so you can remember what you're doing. And it's a really fun class. People love doing it. So that's at livingfreeintennessee.com. I also want to thank our two sponsors of today's show. The first sponsor is John Pugliano and the Well Studying Podcast. What do you think about John?
We have an outstanding relationship.
What do you mean?
I'm his perfect client and he's my perfect financial advisor. I hand him money and say, don't lose it and make more of it.
Okay, but that's not how
I don't pester him about stuff. So it's just a mutually beneficial situation.
But we're not supposed to talk about that. I mean, you guys can know he's a financial advisor, but what John does is he shares all of how he's making decisions on investments on a podcast, helps you become more literate in financial terminology and investing, and he loves money. So he doesn't see problems in the economy as problems in the economy. He sees them as opportunities for making money. And when he looks at a problem in the economy, he's like, how can we turn this into money? And that's the kind of podcast you might want to listen to if you're trying to beat inflation with your investments. Plus, if you're not ready to invest yet, the podcasts are about 15 minutes long, and it's a great way to get more literacy on investment. Check it out, thewellstudyingpodcast.com. With that, it's time to flow into our first segment of today's show, which is Big Picture on the homestead this week. Oh, guys, by the way, we're flying by the seat of our pants today, so if you have questions, let me know. But we didn't have time to get our show notes done because a lot of stuff happened today, a little out of order.
2 out of the 3 people are here.
Yeah. So that's fine. We'll do what we need to do, but it's going to be all surprises all day. I don't know what this man's going to say. So Big Picture on the homestead in the last 7 days. What are you thinking?
I've been making a lot of dump runs.
Why have you been making dump runs?
Getting rid of a lot of stuff, and I'm actually to a point now with the workshop building that a lot of the old nasty rat feces and urine infested shelving is coming out.
3 minutes, 56 seconds, poop came up in a homesteading podcast. I would just like to point that out. Okay, go ahead.
What do you expect? I'm going to get a t-shirt made at some point that says that I tried to fit into your box, but the box broke. So yeah. But anyway, so been getting rid of a lot of stuff. We made
trading places,
a couple of scrap metal runs already, and there's a lot more scrap metal to go, and there's even more scrap metal that's not in the piles yet because I haven't pulled the post out of the ground yet. And then there's also been working on doing a massive reset on the way that we're doing compost, because so far it's just been trying to think of the correct way to put it. Not managed properly.
It hasn't been mismanaged,
ridiculous.
but we've been doing the way I learned to do compost, which is you throw stuff in a pile and you let it go, and eventually over time it will go long enough that it turns into soil and you don't have to fuss with it.
Yeah.
That's how I was raised doing compost.
Yeah. And by all means, I'm of the same mindset. I look at guys doing hot compost and it's like, why? I've never seen a hot compost pile in nature. I've never seen a deer out there flipping a compost pile.
Pigs do.
Okay,
Chickens
pigs do, but like, so I'm a fan of stagnant compost piles, but like, so far it's been we've got a compost pile over here and another one over there, and there's these two bins over here that have weeds growing out of them. So it's like I'm trying to get down to at least, 2 or 3 spots where we're going to have compost, and they're all going to be a little bit more specific on what goes in there.
And we are taking Jack's bioreactor compost course.
Yes.
And the second class for us is tonight, assuming that we don't have a anarchy among the animals that causes it to be too late to watch that. But it's been sort of like dinner time entertainment is watching these courses once a week. I was trying to do more than that, but I've been too tired at night and I really want to absorb it. So I'm figuring it's going to take us 8 weeks to get through the whole thing at this rate. Maybe. We might jumpstart. Like the first one was full of a lot of information. So anyway, what else big picture on the homestead?
I mean, I'm really happy about the fact that, like, I don't have a lot to say about livestock right now because, like, the sheep are over there doing sheep things, the rabbits are doing rabbit things, the ducks.
We'll talk about that under livestock.
Yeah, the ducks are doing duck things.
Okay, well, let's go into our first segment of today's show. And guys, in the comments, just I'm going to be a little more interactive with you if you're interactive with me. I realize that all I see is happy Friday. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you guys on today. Jen, Food Forest Farms, Beth Emily, Martinson family, Food Forest Farms. If you're still on, could you look at if it's time for me to renew my annual payment to you? Out of curiosity, I think it is. Just saying. But forage. So what forage are we finding this week? I found a lot of stuff this week. What did you find?
Weeds.
Okay. He found weeds. I found that the black raspberries are ripe. So on my walk, I saw the black raspberries and I just harvested some to eat. I'm not going to put up a bunch this year because I still have some from last year. And I tasted them, and we've had a lot of rain and they taste okay, but they're not as strong of a black raspberry flavor as usual because the plant has absorbed so much water.
Lovely.
So berries are coming on. Blackberries will be next. Blueberries should be coming on, but I don't think I have blueberries this year for my own fault. And
there are still blueberry bushes behind that shed.
There are blueberry bushes on the swales too, but they're surrounded by weeds, and I don't think we're getting berries off of them. The wine berries will come in about another 3 weeks. So I'd like to clear those from behind those sheds because I don't have wine berries anywhere else. And so that's happening. I harvested red clover, and red clover will go all summer long. I just did an initial harvest. I harvested them from places where the sun has not hit them in the morning yet when I harvested them. I'm going to harvest some in the direct sun and dry them side by side and see if it is in fact true that they discolor more if you harvest them in the sun. The daylilies are blooming, and daylilies, here's the thing with daylilies. You need to be cognizant of what is a daylily from a wild edible standpoint. It's like a tiger lily sort of thing, because the things that are called daylilies in your yard may or may not be edible. So just be aware of that. That being said, the wild ones are blooming now, and the flower tastes a bit like a radish. And so it's time to have pretty salads. Unfortunately, my lettuce didn't do great this year. And the reason is that my aquaponics system is not as fertile as it needs to be.
Yeah.
So it's doing great with Swiss chard and other things, but the lettuce just didn't amount to much there. So I'll get one salad off of it. And then at the farmer's market, I can buy salad as well. So that's what's up with that. So we may end up having, because the watercress is done, I may go out and just forage a bunch of stuff. And then I have longevity spinach coming out of my ears and another hardy green that's coming up in the garden. So I'll probably be able to transition to like the hot weather greens in another week. And right now, like most of our sautés have been Swiss chard and onions. And yesterday we actually bought peppers from the store to add that to the sauté. But most of what's coming off the land are more of the green things. So that's the situation. So Jen says, what about snozberries? Did you see any snozberries in the That was a joke, guys. But she wants to know, are you still growing greens indoors? I am not right now. I have 6 tomato plants inside that need to go outside in the system he hasn't built yet. And those will, like, there's going to be more tomatoes than there are places for tomatoes at the end of this process of building the redoing the tomato system in front of my bedroom window. But I'm keeping all the plants going because I also noticed that I have one plant not doing well in the other system, and I'm probably going to rip it out and put one of the extras in once I know which extra ones we have. So that's the situation. But I stopped doing greens indoors this year simply because I was out of time and I didn't want to further overwhelm myself. And then, like, in the next 4 months, what will happen is we'll be able to eat mostly exclusively off of what's on the land fresh. And so what we eat is going to be determined by what's coming on. Like, I also got mulberries this week. These are all things he's not hearing about because he's not following me around at night when I go and I just snack off the yard. And there's not enough mulberries on the mulberry plant for me to bring a bunch in and serve them. Strawberries are done for the year. It's time to harvest chocolate mint and dry it for tea. What else did I see when I was out? There was something else.
I did find what appeared to be a mulberry laying on a piece of metal roofing, and I have no idea where it came from.
Where was it over there?
No, it's down by the workshop.
Oh, there's a mulberry down there.
Where?
There's one by your cabin.
Okay,
and I bet if I look around the backside, there's another mulberry, and it's huge.
I couldn't see what looked like a mulberry tree, and I definitely did not see any other mulberries over there. I was just like, I have no idea where this came from.
Yeah. I like mulberries a lot, just fresh off the tree. So that's pretty fun. So the last thing that I noticed just coming up, I've been watching the jewel weed for about 3 weeks. And I found my first blooming jewel weed. So the jewel weed is starting to bloom. It's a good time to then harvest it and make jewel weed salve, which can help you with symptoms of poison ivy rash.
Yep.
That being said, I have so much jewel weed salve, I'm not going to do it. And usually jewel weed gets to this point and the stupid county mower comes and whacks it down before I can make it. But this year I was like, yes, we beat the county mower. It bloomed. And that's part of the fun of just living in the country setting. Like, you never know exactly when they're going to come through. Okay. Next segment is livestock. Why don't you tell us about what the broody duck is doing?
We have a pattern now.
He's been trained by a duck. Just to be clear, he did not train the duck trained him. Okay. What's debatable. Your pattern?
So she's got a nice little spot under some giant rocks. It's like a pretty legit duck cave.
It's a duck cave.
And so one night she came out to get food when I put everybody else to bed, and I had a couple of other ducks that were, halfway across the holler. So they were stragglers coming in, and I opened the door to let them in, and she was standing there wanting back out. And of course, a couple of other ducks came out, and I've got a little fiberglass fence post. It's just one of the little rods. And so I shooed the other ducks back in and let her out. She went over, got some water, and then went right back out and beeline back to her little cave. I was like, okay.
She's trained him.
If that's how we're going to play this game, that's fine. I'm perfectly okay with that. So for the last couple of nights, every night, like, she's the first one in the coop. She gets her food. If she's not done eating by the time I get all the stragglers in, I'll stand there for a minute, open the door, and she'll be standing right there waiting to get back out. She goes over, gets a little bit of water, and just beelines straight back into her little hole. So it's actually kind of a little bit of an amusement putting the ducks to bed right now, is watching her.
Yes. Homestead made easy. Welcome to the live stream. Guys, tell them hello. So what about the male Muscovy?
I'm going to shoot him.
So he's really happy, and he thinks it's cute that this duck has him trained to open the door and let her back out to take care of her brood, her clutch of eggs. But the male Muscovy has been a rebel and not going to bed, and he's been chasing him, screaming profanities all over the holler at night. It's like the last thing that happens before the sunset is the redneck says a bunch of F's about a duck and threatens to shoot the duck. Is that a correct assessment of what's happening?
He's replaceable. I'm just saying.
Welcome to the live stream, Patrick. Good to see you. Rachel just would like to point out we're still missing some likes, so don't forget to like this show and drop a comment. That helps get the algorithm going. So last night I decided to help put the ducks to bed, and there was absolutely no problem with the Drake. I'm just saying.
Maybe I yelled at him enough, but he finally got the point.
You can try to take credit for it, but you just apparently need two people putting ducks to bed for a while. My theory, two things. One, we have the cicadas are falling from the trees now, which is delicious food for dogs and ducks and chickens. Like, my dogs are running around eating them. Is yours?
I don't know.
Yeah, if you watch them on a walk, they're like chomp, 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 chomp. It's probably why Cece's not as hungry as usual. She is eating a lot of cicadas. And then the ducks are eating the cicadas, and then they're like, well, why do I need to go to bed? I can stay out here and eat cicadas all night, and that'd be way more fun than going to bed.
Yeah, you need to go to bed because, what was it, 2 nights ago? My dog killed a possum right next to the duck coop. Guess where the possum was going?
Yep. Jen says, protein. One of the best things about cicada years from just a poultry standpoint is that your poultry will never be fatter than they are this year doing the protein. And tactical is going to take off. Okay, so the other stuff that's going on with the livestock is we are starting to slowly wean the bottle lamb, and she's doing fine with it. A lot of other sheep farmers just go like cold turkey, or they go down quickly in a week. I'm sort of tapering it off and watching her condition because it's a little early to wean her yet, but she's also a plump, healthy little girl, and I don't want her to get too plump. So just right now, she's getting 16 ounces of milk a day, twice a day, 8 and 8, so total of 16. And I need to go look at her actually because I haven't seen her in a few days just to see how that's going. But she's not like desperate for food when we come over with the bottle, so that's helpful. The rabbits, we are ready to cull. We have too many males right now, so we're going to cull some of them. But then Nighthawk has an old male that needs to be replaced. So I think actually instead of culling, we're going to cull his, and then we're going to be moving one of ours over there who's younger and can do what they need to do. Nighthawk also has a female that's getting a little on years and ready to be replaced. So I think maybe out of the next litter from the John Willis rabbits, we may send a female over there too, just to keep the diversity of bloodline in them. Jen wants to know, how old is she? She is 12 weeks old. So it is time to wean her. Well, she's almost 12 weeks old. So I'm doing a little advance of the time, but it is time. One step closer. Welcome to the live stream. Okay, as far as Egg-a-Palooza, we're still getting a ton of eggs right now, and I'm freeze drying them. I have a dozen chicken eggs that I will list for sale that if they don't sell, then I will freeze dry them. And I just, it's actually kind of nice to get the freeze dryer back into the cycle, really. It was, like it's great to have these stored eggs for the winter when we run out of eggs. And we went through like all of the freeze dried eggs I did last time pretty quickly. So the goats are in great shape. As far as feeding the animals from what we have here, it is time to harvest fodder trees. I haven't been that great at it because I've been focusing on making sure the garden grows vegetables. And I'm hoping to get a round done this weekend. We also had an incredible amount of rain this spring, and it's been difficult to get things done outside. Just from a standpoint of it's not super pleasant to stand out there in the rain, although that's not the end of the world. But also, there's just stuff you can't do with the soil when you're getting like just inundated with rain. So, yeah. Jen wants to know, have you been keeping track of how much the freeze dryer is saving you in food storage? No, I have not. I haven't really thought about it. For me, it's not really about a money savings thing. It's about using what we produce. And the investment in the Harvest Right freeze dryer is a significant investment when you do it. So and I have an affiliate link. If anybody decides to get one, like use my affiliate link. That really helps us keep the show going when people do that. But it was, thousands of dollars to do it. But for me, the health benefit is I get the bone broth we make here, unless I buy it from AJ. I get the eggs that we produce here without any soy. I get leftovers that I can take with me on the road, and then I don't have to buy restaurant food. It keeps me out of the commercial food system a little bit better. I can do milk and add that to my coffee when I'm on the road, and it's shelf stable. So I don't have to bring a cooler everywhere I go, although I do usually bring a cooler with some things in it when I can. So that's been the benefit for me. I could do it, like I could talk about how much I put up in a month off of our land. But if you really think about it, I could freeze my eggs and leave them in the freezer. It takes freezer storage and you have to pay the electrical maintenance for the freezer every month. But I figure I'm using a few dollars in electricity every day when I run that thing. It's like running an air conditioner, like a window unit. So it does use power to turn it into freeze-dried stuff. So for me, it's been more of a convenience and health choice and less of a money choice. Anarchy says, hi from rural Minnesota. Happy last day of May. Yeah, that's right. June is upon us. How did the year get behind us that quickly? We're almost halfway done this year. How's your word of the year going? Rachel says, I need to torch the weeds in my garden and get it started. You must be north. Red Flyer Media, welcome to the live stream. I'm loving that you guys are here and jumping in and giving us comments. So that's livestock. The next segment is grows, is where we talk about what we're growing on the homestead. And I didn't do as well with my seedlings this year as I usually do. So I do not have fennel, which makes me a little sad because I like eating fennel. And it is just not here. And it's a little too late for me to do that here until fall. I will try to do a round of seedlings in mid-July that I intend to transplant 6 weeks after that. And I'll get that going inside again. But I just didn't do it. And I'm not willing to spend like $5 a plant at Home Depot and Tractor Supply and the Farmers Co-op just to get more plants out here. So everything we're doing in the garden is either by taking a cutting of something that already exists and rooting it, or we're using seed. So I've pretty much seeded the whole garden at this point. I have green beans that are up. I waited 2 weeks in between my first seeding of green beans to seed more green beans because basically I could probably can as many green beans as I produce in addition to what we're just eating fresh. And I ended up with 3 pint jars left of my green beans at this point. So we use a lot of green beans in the winter. So I'll just keep canning those as they come on. I might try freeze drying some after I blanch them this year just for the fun of it. I'm curious about how that goes, and maybe add some salt and some garlic salt and some other flavors and see if they make like good green bean snacks. But I went out there, gosh, at the beginning of the week, I was looking at my garden like, what am I going to do? Because usually I bring a lot of seedlings and I transplant them, and they shield the garden from other weeds coming up, but I don't have those on hand. So I started taking cuttings from my longevity spinach, which is heat resistant. It can't be frosted. I kept it inside over winter, and I've got some in my aquaponics system, but it roots really easily, and it's a delicious green that you can saute up. And I realized like I have everything. I have the tools I need to do what I need to do. The one thing I haven't put outside yet is my one sweet potato slip that's been sitting on my windowsill for 6 months. So I'll put that somewhere. But other than that, it's all seeds. I also took a lot of zucchini and summer squash seeds and put them sort of on the ends of the rows this time rather than in one place. And then I did nothing with cucumbers this year. And it's a bit late to direct seed cucumbers in Tennessee, although not the end of the world. But it's better if you started them inside and you transplant them at this point to get cucumbers before it gets so hot that they stop giving you cucumbers. But I bought a variety of gourd that tastes like a cucumber if you harvest it young. And so what I did yesterday is I put those seeds on a trellis line. So things are starting to look good in the garden. My bee balm is exploding, and happily I had a lot of Swiss chard places. I actually think going into fall, I'm going to try to get 12 or 14 Swiss chard plants going, because these are the Swiss chard plants I put in last year. They overwintered. They came back, and this year they're starting to go to seed, which tells me more Swiss chard plants are in order. And that's the situation. So that's what's up with what's growing. The tomato wall looks great. I have to train it up the trellis this weekend. We're doing a big deep clean under Taj Mahal because we have a bunch of people coming for chicken processing next weekend. So I need to make sure that's all set and ready to go before I go into the week, because Thursday of next week, I go to Camden for a meeting. I pick up the chickens that we're processing. I come back. Friday, we have Homestead Happenings. And then Saturday it's all coming very quickly. So that's what's up in the garden. Next up is Holler Neighbors and Community. This is where we talk about just what's up with the Holler Neighbors. Nighthawk's parents were in town last week, so we did a Holler neighbor dinner on Sunday night, and then for Memorial Day, he cooked hamburgers over at his place. So we've had a couple of shared meals, and those have been really fun. He's starting to do campfires at night, which is a cycle he goes through at this time of year where it's not too hot at night, where we can just sit around the campfire. Unfortunately, I just go to bed when the sun sets, so I haven't been going out to the campfires, but it's really fun. I've got Ken out here helping me with my camper roof right now, and that's been really helpful. So he was supposed to come Monday and just get me however far he could help me get on the roof. I started a video series on TikTok last week, scraping the roof to get it ready for this new membrane. I discovered it made more sense to take the whole roof off, and then inspecting under the roof, we had like supports and things. It's actually in pretty good shape. So I got all the supplies we needed to redo the roof and get a it's like a rubber like thing. It's not rubber though. It's a special product that lasts longer than that. Glued down on the roof so that it's watertight. Because my biggest concern with the glamper is making sure it stays watertight and doesn't rot. Because what happens with campers or glampers, over time, if they get a leak, they get a little leak, and then you get a lot of rot, and then you have a lot of work to do. So it's better to park them under a cover if you can, but if not, at least get a good roof on there. I'll probably forever store the thing with a billboard tarp on it too, unless I'm using the solar panels that we're going to glue to the top of it. I didn't want to put solar panels on the roof until I knew the roof was watertight and not needing work, because then you have to take the solar panels back off. And if you get like the stick down, glue down kind, you're ruining the panel taking it off and working on your roof. So that's happening. But I was really pleased that we were able to get it ready for him. He was supposed to come Monday. there was something with one of his customers that was an emergency, and he was unable to come Monday, which in hindsight for us was good, not for his customer who had the problem. But it gave us extra time to just really work on the camper, and I ordered some other upgrades I'm going to do while the roof is open. So I'm pretty excited about how the glamper is turning out. And once that's done, I'm going to get back into redoing the bathroom and the closet area over time, but we'll be able to rent it here on property after this is done and we get it in place. And then we'll have a glamper that we can rent on Hip Camp and other things. And hopefully it can start generating some of its own money, not just being a place where I avoid buying an Airbnb because I can stay in my camper as I'm out and about at things. Glad to hear it's in good shape. Leaks are kryptonite to campers. Yeah. Yeah. So once I'm done with that, I think I'm going to pop out all the windows and just reseal around them to make sure that we don't have any window leaks causing problems. I say it's going to take me months to get that done, but I have learned how to do that. And it's not a terrible process. It's like you unscrew it, you scrape all the crap off, you scrape all the crap off the window, you inspect for any like replacement wood that has to happen. And then you reseal it, you pop it back in, and then that lasts for a while. We just had such significant rain and ice this winter that I think it really taxed the camper's roof, which had been recently re-rubberized. But that was all cracked and breaking apart. And I'm like, man, I just don't think that I want to have this start from the top down. Like I redid the originally Holler roast coffee. I had my roaster set up in a camper that I gutted. And part of the gutting process, I had replaced a lot of the framing because it was all rotted from a roof leak. So then I just wanted to, get that handled. So anyway, it's great to have people in the community like Ken who have skills so that we can make these things happen as we get into them. And I really had wanted to do this mostly by myself, and it's turned out I haven't. There's been just like things coming up where it's like, it's going to take me 6 months to get through this process. And then when people pitch in and help, it takes less time because they have skills I've not developed yet. Red Flyer Media says, use good caulk, not the butyl stuff on the windows. I'll send you pics. Okay, yes, great. I'm going to use like that tape stuff that you tape. I don't remember. But yeah, also good sealant. So how is the lawnmower sale going, Tactical?
He's loading it up.
Great. So we had a morning this morning where I had scheduled with somebody to help me by cleaning my house. And I thought they were coming at 11:30 or later after the live stream. But their boss told them to come at 8 sharp. So that was fun.
They showed up at 8 sharp.
She was here at 8 sharp, and she's like, I can come back. I'm like, no, because then you're already here. We might as well just do it. Then Ken got here a little later than he thought for the camper, but that worked out in like the perfect window between my 8 o'clock call with Letty and the 9:30 live stream.
Yeah.
And then lawnmower guy, who said he was coming out, somehow managed to want to be here in the only hour that I am online in a live stream. And I was like, fine, Ken is here. Ken, can you take the money? But apparently the battery was not batterying.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of a trick doing it. And by the time I got out there, they had already run the battery down. So
yeah,
it was like, yeah. So fortunately, it was parked right next to my Jeep. So that was an easy.
Is that going into the tire fund?
Sure.
Okay. We just added $200 to the tire fund. We have $500 in the tire fund.
Yeah. And it also gets one bulky thing out of my way.
Yeah.
Which that's the part that I'm really happy
Yeah. So we've been like really purging stuff here. I have another whole pile of tools that are out of here that I list for sale for like a week. And then when they don't sell, I just give them to Goodwill or throw them away. If they're not if they're not salvageable, they're going away.
Yeah.
So the question is on that skill saw, is it worth cleaning it up?
Probably.
Okay. So I have a skill saw for sale that plugs into the wall in case anybody wants one.
Yeah.
Is it a Makita? It's a.
I don't remember.
It might be a Milwaukee. It's red. Milwaukee is red.
There's several that are red.
Yeah, we'll look at that. It's one I've had for a long time. It served me well, but since we've gotten the DeWalt tool set here in the Holler with batteries, like I just borrow his whenever I need to skill saw because then I don't have the cable to think about. They do have pretty good power with when you plug them in. It's kind of like that drill I had.
It's also a situation of I have a really nice corded skill saw. This is another skill saw. There's also an angle grinder out there because there are presently 5 angle grinders in this Holler. Let me rephrase that. There's more than 5. There's 5 on this property. I mean, granted, most of them are 4.5 inch, and I've got one that's like a 9 inch, so it's different. But like, and angle grinders is something that's nice to have at least 2 of, because you can have a cutting wheel on one and a grinding wheel on the other, and you don't have to swap back and forth. But I don't need 5.
Do you know what's happening Sunday?
Nope.
Carrie Brown is hosting his quarterly swap meet at his place. Do you know I'm going to that?
I'm going to send a bunch of stuff there.
Come to think of it, I can just go there with a bunch of stuff and then hook Goodwill on the way home. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's totally what's going to happen. So I have a drywall thingy. I have the skill saw. I have an angle grinder that is a tool that every homesteader should have at least one of. What else? One of those inverters I think we should keep, so we'll talk about that. But I have a 1,000-watt inverter that needs to go.
That's another one where we have 4 inverters and 2 generators.
I'm wondering if we should permanently install an inverter in the truck so that we can.
That's
have
probably going to happen, and it will not be one of those.
Okay.
It will be the 2,000-watt that I bought specifically to install in a truck.
Okay.
That is not getting installed in the truck.
Apparently, there's a big picture plan I have not been clued in on. He's looking at me like, I've got this covered. I've made the plans. We should talk about the plans sometime. Okay. That's important.
Yeah.
What's the biggest thing you're focusing on right now?
I'm breaking the rule of not focusing on one thing. I've got 15 things that I'm focusing on.
Yeah, so I need to do some cement work or concrete work for my swim spa that's going to get installed this year.
Yeah.
He looks all hesitant about that. Yesterday morning, I'm like, I think we could put it here. And he's like, okay, let's look at this. He's been trying not to look at it for like 2 weeks since I got home from Exit and Build, or whatever it was. I was Exit and Build.
Well,
John Bush, this is your fault.
How long have you been talking about getting a swim spa?
A year. It's been 1 year since I decided to get a swim spa and started raising money for it. And this year it's going to happen.
Okay.
He's not going to kill me yet. Are you going to kill me?
No.
Good. But we need concrete work, so it has a good foundation. And actually, I have this list for Ken every time he comes out, like, look at the trim in my bathroom. Maybe we could do that. Check out the workshop. Now you can see what's happening with the supports. What do we need to do with that? Hey, there's this roof line thing I want to do with my house long term, but I want to put in the swim spa before that because I'm just done waiting for the swim spa. Okay. And is that a terrible idea? Or what do I need to do? Or what do I need to think about? Because what I know is that I don't currently want to put that much money into the house remodel fund.
No.
So lots to think about there. Okay, let's talk about infrastructure. What have you done infrastructure-wise of note this year?
This year?
I mean, this week. Can you hand me my water bottle?
Mostly I've been hammering on the workshop to get that building cleaned out. And the deeper I got into it, the harder I pushed, because it's like I knew that wasn't really sure what was holding the building up aside from the metal that, makes up the siding. And the more I dug into it and actually got access to some areas that you couldn't see, it's like, yeah, literally both sides of the building are literally just being held up by metal. And that's kind of an issue. And then on one side and one area, you can actually see the metal starting to buckle. and that's not good. So that's like at least that spot needs to get dealt with sooner rather than later.
There is talk of taking the whole building out and putting a pole barn in that's 2 stories.
Yeah. And that's also it kind of for me, if that's going to happen, like I need to be able to get in and see what I have to work with, because you're basically looking at 4 pieces of concrete that are all different shapes and sizes, and one of them definitely has to get ripped out and replaced because it's moving and it's not supposed to move.
Which one?
The footer on the downhill side is moving out and up.
Okay. Not one I poured?
No.
Okay. Whew, did one thing right around here.
Yeah, that section of concrete is actually holding well. It's the old footer that is like, yeah, that's not, I can tell just by looking at it that that's supposed to be closer than 2 inches from this other slab of
So I'm just
concrete.
spitballing here. You ready for me to spitball?
Okay.
What if we paid a company? We took everything down. It's just the concrete pads. We paid a company to bust out that pad, the whole thing, if it needs to be busted out, and set up with footers and driveway, a driveway that goes off and into the wash off the other side. So it could be approached from both sides.
Possible.
And then we could make sure there's a flat pad for the glamper. And then we could pull the glamper out the concrete driveway without having to drag it through soil.
We'll look at it.
That's the reaction I get most. So living with somebody who could possibly have ADHD and has ideas all the time, that's what it's like, right?
The level of complication that she just added to that whole equation cannot be described in audio.
I'm very proud of my ability to do that.
I'm starting to think you work for the government.
No, we don't have to do it that way, but I'm like, we need to put the camper somewhere long term.
Yeah.
And we need to have the tires not in contact with the soil when it's parked somewhere for a long time. So,
okay.
Yeah, because that makes them last longer. Anyway, anything else infrastructure-wise you would like to talk about?
I don't think so.
Okay. Last is, can you describe it in interpretive dance? Last thing is finances. I just spent like $60,000 verbally in one sentence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's probably not going to happen, but a girl can dream. A girl can dream. What else?
I don't know. I'm hoping I'm done spending money aside from those tires that we're about to buy for a little while.
The money that's coming in is from selling crap that's been here for a long time.
Yeah.
And the poultry processing workshop. I'm going to be doing some canning and cheese making workshops here throughout the summer, which I will talk to you about schedule on. It's been a little tough to schedule because I have a personal thing going on in my family that could require me to travel soon out there and maybe a few times over the summer. So I'm kind of assessing that situation right now, and then I'll get them on the books. And I am doing a July webinar for members that is canning, but it's not like my typical canning webinar. It's going to be a project we all work on together with our canners, because I learned that people who have taken my canning webinar, who are staunch members of LFTN and great people, still have their canners unopened in a box. So I'm like, we got to fix that. Like, let's make some pickles or some jam or something together. So we'll be talking about that more as we get into the summer. But there's a little secret group they have, and they were talking about that. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to do this webinar in July. Attendance is mandatory. And they were all cracking up over that. It's not really mandatory, but but we're going to actually make stuff, guys. Actually make stuff. Other than that, I haven't really pushed the eggs for sale, but I'm going to start pushing the eggs for sale more now that I'm home. And we have 4 or 5 lambs that will be processed in the fall. So that's like sort of the next cash influx from what we're producing here, aside from trainings and those sorts of things and coffee roasting.
Well,
we did so back to community. I forgot this story. A friend of ours has to cull one of their sheep and did not have a trailer. We have a trailer, so they came and borrowed it. And that's actually why it's really nice to know people in your area who are doing similar things. Because I'm sure they will buy their own transport thing at some point, but they have not had to do that this time. And it was there when the person needed it. So I think that was good for them, because they were like, oh, I gotta get a way to transport this. I'm like, why don't you borrow my sheep trailer?
Yeah.
You have a sheep trailer. I'm like, actually I have a horse trailer, but I've taken the middle bar out so that the sheep can go in it. And I noticed when we were up to it's time to do some maintenance on that thing.
Yeah.
So that was something we're going to have to dive into too. We've been doing a lot of maintenance on things. By we, I mean him.
Yeah.
But just sort of starting to get the things that are being kept in better condition and then keeping them there. Red Flyer Media says, as an addition, ADD person he has to deal with. Sorry, Tactical. I need to participate in the canning class. I volunteer to help with any online stuff. Sure, we'll do it. I need to get my studio set up so I can just broadcast from my kitchen. So our goal, Red Flyer Media, our goal in June is to get that actually rolling, because I need to figure out the track to buy the track, put the cameras up, whatever those are, and get that sort of lined out. And then it's easier to broadcast from the kitchen studio.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm less worried about the lighting on my face, although eventually we'll want the lighting in the studio done as well. But I can do one of those things at a time, I think. And I have these lights which I can move. So she's like, Nicole, the lighting's the most important part. It's what makes the biggest difference on your video. See, no glasses glare. Glasses glare? No glasses glare. No glasses glare. That took me months to figure out.
Okay.
Glasses glare? No glasses glare.
Okay.
Do you care?
Not really.
One day you'll wear glasses and then you're going to care.
I have glasses.
Reconnected with a friend this week, and they were really happy. They were they exclaimed about my blue eyes, and they're like, no, I'm just kidding. It's the glasses glare from your screen. And if I go up, I get that. That right there, guys, is the window over there that should have a blackout curtain up that doesn't, because the trim needs to be done around the window before I can hang the curtains, and I don't want to hang the blackout curtains until I am putting it up one time. Toolbox fallacy.
Okay.
Does that stress you out? Okay, last thing. The food forest weeds were up to my head when I got back into town. And then it rained for 5 more days and they were over my head. And what I've been doing for my garden 30 every day is working in the upper garden, but I actually caught up in the upper garden. I'm caught up.
That's good.
By tomorrow, I'll be uncaught up again because there'll be weeds. But I've been taking out tiny pin-sized weeds on my beet row because my beets are only they're super short. And I want to get the weeds out before they establish roots, and then I can't pull them and I have to cut them because it'll disturb the beet roots. And yesterday I got to do my garden 30 on the swale, and I got maybe 10 feet. And what I could have done was just chop and drop the whole thing, but I'm actually pulling out the roots on purpose to hopefully make that better long term. But yeah, so I was weeding straight into a wheelbarrow. He helped me by dumping the wheelbarrow when it was full. And I figure it'll only take me 2 more weeks to get that done on the schedule.
We'll see.
Yeah. But I unearthed a really beautiful plantain plant that I left there because I like plantain. And part of the fun of pulling individual weeds is you leave things that planted themselves that are doing well. And I unearthed a blueberry bush, and it does not have any berries on it, nor did it get sun for the last 3 weeks. What else did I find? Oh, a couple rose bushes, your favorite.
Yeah, I already got stabbed by those.
You didn't get stabbed by them. You got stabbed by the refuse from them. Should I warn you
Same
next time there's
difference.
pricklies in the refuse pile?
Be a decent idea.
Okay. So I'm probably going to take some strawberries now and transplant them, and then we're going to wood chip over, or in the opposite order. We might wood chip first, which requires a trip to wood chip Mecca to go shovel chips in our free time.
I'm hoping to have a little bit more of that in the near future.
You know what? Thursdays are not a bad day for me to go do something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we might do that. Anyway, that's the update from the Holler this week. If you like the show and want to support the work I'm doing, you can support our second sponsor, who I forgot to mention this morning, which is Holler Roast. Holler Roast Coffee is my coffee brand, and I carefully taste a bunch of different beans before I order the beans for the season, because coffee beans change in flavor every season at a given farm. And I like certain flavor profiles, some of which MT Knives does not like, it turns out. I gave him too fruity of a coffee last time. I'm like, well, I can give you chocolate and caramel, dude. That's my favorite flavors anyway.
What? He's not all hoity-toity? I thought fruity coffee was the latest fashion.
It is the latest fashion. Anyway, that's all over at hollerroast.com. We've got K-Cups now, which are super exciting. They've been very popular. And we roast everything to order except for the K-Cups. I do in small batches, so they stay fresher than anything you can get at the grocery store. Check that out, hollerroast.com. The other way to support the show is to become a member, livingfreeintennessee.com, to find out more about that. Members, if you're listening to this, I am working with a tech guy right now to completely change how that system comes, because I'm hearing that people can't find the webinars. So we're changing, we're like literally moving systems. There'll be some email traffic about that in the next little while. I'm probably going to give you one saying, this is what's happening. This is how you sign up for the Salatin webinar. This is what may change midstream on that, just so that happens. But I want you to be able to find your webinars that you have paid for easier. Anyway, with that, guys, go out, make it a great week.